Hello, everyone, and welcome to the session 2 of the Skills for AI and Digital Innovation. In this session, we will focus on the main skills and things you need for using AI in your career and academic experience. The last session, we had a panel of experts talk about the mindset and a bit the theories around AI and new LLM models. This week, we'll go a little bit beyond, looking at practical implementation with the main goal of enhancing your academic, student, and career experience, all topics that we will further see also in session 3. Thank you all for joining us. As a quick reminder, there's 3 of us in the team. I am Lorenzo, and we also we also have Fatou and Saara in the team, along with Anders Ron, to which I will pass the mic 1 second to say something.
Thanks, Lorenzo. Welcome, everyone. It's my absolute pleasure to mentor this change agents team. They're doing a fantastic job and they have exemplified proactive teamwork. So it's all their hard work reaching out across the university to bring all these experts and these speakers and the expertise from all corners of the university here to you today. I'm in no way a technical expert. My role is that of convening a space for these conversations to happen. And we are here today because AI is changing how we work and live in all aspects of society really quickly. And we need to be aware of that and skilled for it. There are so many knock-on effects. We definitely cannot go into everything within these 3 sessions. However, we can make a start. With that,
Thank you, Amber.
I'll pass back over to Lorenzo.
Thank you, Amber. A small note before starting, if you have any question during this week, please put the name of the persons. We have 4 experts today. So put the name of the person and then the question, or if it's a general question you expect us to answer all together, just put the question. One also small thing, if you have really convoluted questions, better ask them multiple ones, one per aspect, rather than a really long question, which then is harder for us to answer. With that, I'd like to start with a bit of an intro questions, and I think we can all raise hand on Teams for that. So the first one, I have used ChatGPT. Please raise your hand if so. Try and see if I can do how many people. 17, 18. Okay, perfect. Hopefully most of you are listening because I think this statistic is quite low, 20 out of 50, but that's quite interesting. Now, please all remove your hands. And we're going to see if, another second question is, do you know what an AI agent is? Please raise your hand if so. I'm gonna raise mine. Okay, perfect. It drops significantly. And now I have one last question, which is, have you ever used an AI agent? Okay, only 4, 7, 9, 10. Perfect. Still a decent amount. I was expecting even less. So actually, in reality, most of you have used an AI agent. You just don't know. And today we're going to show you why and where you've used AI agents and how you can actually use them even more to have even better results. So with that, let's start with a little bit of key pieces of vocabulary for this session. As always, this is quite relaxing. The idea is just to have a common ground, and then we'll reintroduce them as the session goes. So we've seen last week what an LLM is, which is a large language model. It's a really complex mathematical model, was being trained, so has read basically the entire internet and even more. And based on that, is able to predict and generate with generative AI words and sentences. The way it works is with a prompt. So when you ask a question to an AI, like, what is your name? It is not just starting from scratch. It is taking what you said and then predicting the most probable word after that. What is your name? My name is ChatGPT. That's why prompting is really important. And the prompt is the message you send to an AI. Often, this is sent through a chat interface. This is when you go into ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude, this is what you have, a chat interface. You send a message and you receive some. This is the base interaction with AI, into what we will be focusing on today. Please note that there is another way of interacting, which is through an API. Simple terms is simply via code, which allows much more modularity and control. This is outside of the scope today, as it is much more technical, but in the future we could look at studying it, and I will put some additional resources today if you want to have a read about it. Some vocab for this session. Prompt engineering is the art or the science of writing right prompts to achieve an intended output. There are several parameters we want to maximize, such as accuracy, so have the best output possible, but then it has also several other advantages, such as environmentally reducing environmental costs, monetary, and more. AI agents are really important. We're going to talk about it in a second. The Turing test is a bit the foundations of AI, and it is the idea that talking with a machine through a chat interface, we are not able to realize that it is a machine. And we say that an AI or a machine has passed the Turing test, where the majority of the people will not recognize they are not talking to a human. We are just at the threshold right now, so at the point where things like ChatGPT are just about to pass that frontier. The system prompt is another concept, which is really similar to the prompt engineering, but the idea is every time we talk with an AI, we are not only talking with the model, but the creators of that AI have also defined what we call a system prompt, which is a prompt that the creator puts to define how the AI should act. Things like, you should always be friendly. You should not tell them how to make a bomb. You should always mention da-da-da. You should not use copyrighted content. These are all examples of really long system prompts. For things such as Claude, which is the best system prompt out there, it can go over 10,000 words. The reason I'm talking about this is knowing about the system prompt of AI can inform us about how the creators of that brain, of that AI, have set it up in order for us to better use it. Through the API as well, we are able to modify the system prompt ourselves, but in the chat interface, always we have already the system prompt set adapted by the AI creators. Human in the loop and AGIs are two concepts we already saw last week. Human in the loop is simply having a human that collaborates with the AI, and AGI is an artificial general intelligence. So small recap on the vocabulary. We have the LLMs, we talk with the LLMs through a chat interface, and we have a prompt with prompt engineering, but we need to also know of a system prompt on top of that. And we can collaborate through a human in the loop with those AI that will maybe one day pass the Turing test and reach AGI or ASI. Now, without further ado, let's go on the reflection. These are two questions that I would like you to think of during the session, keep in the back of your head. And at the end, we're going to revisit them. First one is, what part of your job will AI do? And the second one is, how will you modify and improve your interactions with AI? These are two base questions on which we will build the rest of this session. And now, let's get rocking. AI skills for digital innovation. I wanted to start with this diagram. And for those who had seen the introductory video with session 0, I've already a bit presented it on the screen. This is taken from our research. And this is a brain. And these are all the various capabilities, characteristics that our brain is. And look at me one second, like things, see in front of you. We as humans are, we could say, amazing machines. We have plenty of capabilities, and even if I'm aware of diversity and different capabilities, we mainly have these main things, like you are listening to me while watching a screen. At the same time, you are planning, deciding, making split-second motorial decisions, and reasoning logically, planning your next thing. It is all based on how you put your attention, how you work with timing, and then also based on a learning and a set of learned behaviors and skills. All of these things are things that would maybe even take for granted as humans. But the entire field of AI is how can we make all of these skills one by one through machines. So then also it has plenty of advantages of helping us, but also working and automating certain tasks. And this is taken, as you can see here, from foundation agents, Amazon foundation agents, which is a recap of papers. And imagine this, for every single one of those points, there are tens and tens and tens, if not thousands, of papers studying in deep how can we have AIs do that. And obviously, the big advantages of LLMs and ChatGPT and things like that is that they kind of take all of this and they put it in one. So they generalize and then simplify it. Because with all those capabilities, ChatGPT has a lot of them. ChatGPT is able to see text, see images, see video, audio. It's also able to process, to plan. We're going to see about this. It's also able to think and reason to a certain extent. And then even after that, it's able to generate text, images, and more. Obviously, this is simulating. This is not the same level of us doing it, but it's quite a good simulation, as with most of us have seen, as you all raise, most of us, you raise your hand talking about how you use ChatGPT. And now let's say you're scientists in a lab and you have that kind of this brain in a tube. We're looking at it. What can we do with this brain? And that's where AI agent comes in. So what is an AI agent? Really good question. An AI agent, the idea is to take that brain and give it arms, so the capabilities to do actions. So we have ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. And our idea is how do we make it able to do things that have a real world impact, or at least digital impact? And I can connect it with tools. And now I'm going to give you some examples. We'll understand this concept. If I have a brain like ChatGPT and ask him how the stock market is doing, it's probably going to hallucinate or make up that information because it's not able to see the stock market. It's not trained like that. It has read the entire internet at a specific point in time, not now, not live. So I'm probably going to invest and use all my money. But if, let's say, I give a ChatGPT the ability to see the stock market live. So now, ChatGPT, what is the market value of Apple? Rather than inventing it, making it up, it's going to say, wait a second. I have to go and check it out. Goes maybe on the web or on a specific web page, checks, takes the value, and then gives me the market value of Apple. And then the LLM, ChatGPT, can have value added. So rather than only saying, give me the market value of Apple, I can say, make an investment report of Apple, NVIDIA, and Microsoft. So what it's going to do, it's going to go, take those three stock values, and rather than giving them directly to me, study them, reason, because they're really good brain, think about it, and then give me a report that I can use and download. Some more advanced agents, as this one is an example in the information step, so getting information from outside sources. But I can also have in the action step, as Hans can do a lot of things. So let's say I want to, I'll give you an example of a task I've just done manually, and I think I'll be able to do it with AI agents in a couple of months, maybe a bit more. I add to all of you schedule a meeting and send you emails. And all of that is based on my knowledge of what we're going to teach and all of this. But now, let's say I take an AI agent, I give him access to the Canva slides, and then I give him access with privacy in mind, obviously, to your emails and my Outlook. What the agent is going to do, for instance, is look at all your calendars, find the best time for all of us, then go into the action step, which is booking the actual time for all of us in the to join the session, and then send all of us an email, all of the students, saying, hey, we're really happy to see you all there. This is the information about the sessions. It is week 1, week 2, week 3, and this is a link. All of that autonomously, which is a thing that I had to do manually. Obviously, here, the concept of human in the loop is fundamental. What if the agent does not have access to week 2 and says there are only 2 weeks? Or what if he gets the date wrong and put it on a Saturday, for instance? That's why human in the loop is important. What I'll do is I say 90% of the useless or more autonomous task is the agent, and then I keep only 10% of the decision-making and the creative output. So at the start, I give an initial prompt, which is, this is my goal to the agent. I'm going to talk about prompt engineering. And then the agent does these things, propose a plan to me, saying like, this is the email, this is the timing of the calendar. And then I say yes. Then I say, oh, I want this modification to the email. The agent comes back to me with the modification, and I say yes, and the agent sends us email. Sam Altman put it really well, comparing it to the video game StarCraft, but we can think of other video games, where AI agents are like small workers, and I'm on top, and I can send them to work on a task, and then check on to them like this while they're working. but it's kind of more, I trust them to do their work up to a certain extent, and then I have to come back and check how they're doing. So I hope it's clear on what AI agents are. Next up, we have Avan, which is a lecturer in computer science, and he's also the module lead for prompt engineering and programming for prompt engineering. Unfortunately, he's not able to be here today. As such, I will play a video of him, which was really kind to do. And it's a really, really, really interesting video where we will talk a bit about his background, and then you will see how it merges through agents. So the idea is we'll talk about more of a different approach of what AI is, so it's known from his own path, then talk a bit about prompt engineering at a higher level. And then from his video and this introduction, I'm going to take it and show how we can combine prompt engineering with AI agents to achieve the best possible outputs. Hope you can all see the video.
Hi there. I'm afraid.
Just confirming, can you all hear?
Yes.
Or Fatou? Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to play this video for the next 15 minutes. If you have questions for Avan, put them in the chat and I'll try to answer them or send it to him.
I can't be with you today in person or even live online, but I've been asked to record a kind of brief presentation on some work I've been doing and some ideas. So here we go. Anyway, my name's Avan Huxor, and I'm in the Department of Computer Science, as you can see. And what I want to talk about briefly today is just an alternative approaches to AI, to the one that we kind of normally think of. First of all, a quick few words about myself. As you can see from the image in the corner, I've been around the block a few times, so I've got quite a long CV. So my early years were kind of in design. I did a degree in architecture and planning, and then went to the Royal College of Art to do a master's in design research. And one way or another, that kind of led me into AI as a way of working with the designers. And in particular, I did a PhD sort of towards the late 80s and early 90s, when I looked at how AI could be probably more interestingly understood in the light of the history of writing and printing, and there were sort of similarities. Things took a bit of a sideways shift sort of towards the end of that decade, at the end of 1990s, when the AI winter hit. So AI at that time had a lot of funding, and there was work and jobs and so on in the universities, but it kind of hadn't delivered much of the things it had promised. So a lot of this kind of funding sort of disappeared. And I then used that as an opportunity to move into a sort of passion of mine, which was astronomy. And so I spent almost like 20 years kind of working in that, sort of retraining and working as an astrophysicist with a particular interest in star clusters. But then some 10 years ago now, I returned to AI and machine learning because it changed an awful lot since I'd done it in the 90s. Been many new developments. But what I'd like to think I'd done is, because I'd had all this other sort of diverse experience, I came with a particular and sort of wider perspective on how we could understand it. So let's first of all look about what the conventional view of AI is, the thing that I'm aiming to provide an alternative to. So I'm sure that most of us are aware that for most people, what AI is about is to simulate intelligence such that you can create something that's indistinguishable from a human. And that people in the field want to create sort of artificial persons that are kind of a match for us in the tasks that we ask and in the interactions we have. And it's very much, you often see, like this image I'm pointing to here, this kind of finger of God iconography, as if the people who are creating these systems see themselves as almost godlike in sort of creating these offspring that can kind of go off and look after themselves. And so this is typically the way we would view it. We've got a sort of human interacting with an AI, and it's effectively on an equal standing. The most accepted test for whether we're achieving AI, as I'm sure most of you will know by now, is the Turing test, in which we as humans have an extended conversation with a machine. And if we are then convinced that it's given answers that are equivalent to a conversational partner that is human, then we can say it's passed the test. And ChatGPT now actually often seems to have passed this test. So here we see an example of on the right-hand side here of an exchange with ChatGPT. And I remember, it took off like crazy sort of 2 and a bit years ago when it was first released. And notice two things. First of all, it has this kind of conversational mode, question answer, but also the use of personal pronouns. So ChatGPT is saying I am, it's kind of personalizing itself. The question I would ask, though, is such conversations a good test of intelligence and autonomy? And the problem is that as humans, we have, in our sort of psychology, a tendency to see agency and personhood out in the world, even if it's not there. And it's very much an evolutionary product. It's a kind of a just-in-case tool. So it's safer in the kind of wild world that we infer that there's an agent out there when there isn't, rather than ignore one that is there. So, it's better to look stupid when you think there's a tiger in the tree rather than being eaten by it. And as Guthrie says here, one real enemy justifies 100 false alarms. And so our cognitive and visual systems are kind of prone to this. So this is a kind of famous example of a face in the side of a cliff, which basically everyone sees. And it's been found that conversations trigger sort of similar feelings in us, in a kind of automated perception of the other as being an agent, as being another person. There is, however, an alternative perspective, less well known, but actually almost as old as AI itself. And this way, AI technologies are actually a medium. It's a slightly more complicated and hard to explain idea than the partner. But it's a medium in which we can capture and communicate our thinking and our ideas and our beliefs and dreams and so on. So it's a bit like having a book and a film, where we have, creators, authors, you have a medium, and then we have an audience, or readers and viewers who kind of look at what the content of the medium is. But instead of inscribing the kind of knowledge, the concepts on paper or on celluloid, we do it on this kind of new surface, a computational surface of the tools that we now have to hand. And so it's all very well having that, but in a sense, does it help us kind of understand modern AI, particularly large language models, which most of us have some dealing with in a kind of useful way? I think it does. So the first thing to remind ourselves, and it's often kind of not stated too explicitly, is that underlying large language models, the things that happen sort of like for many months and at great expense, is that they are what's called trained, but that is effectively ingesting a vast amount of texts that are available kind of on the internet and sort of online. So there's all kind of web pages that are available. There's many collections of online actual books that have been sort of previously published, and there are digital versions. And of course, there's the particular examples of curated pages like Wikipedia. So all that kind of human knowledge and creativity is kind of pulled into this machine, into the model. Secondly, a second part of training these language models is slightly more subtle, in which other humans train the system how to answer, how to, given a particular question, what's the best kind of answer to give, what response. And the way this is done is that you basically have to give the model many examples from which it sort of abstracts the general principles and sort of changes all its weights. And there's a nice kind of little article here on medium.com of someone who actually does this sort of job. who just takes what's been written by, say, ChatGPT, for example, and improves on it and says, no, this is how it should look. So again, more human input, more human effort. So given that, is there a way that we can kind of draw another parallel with a medium? So because what it looks like is when you build these big kind of numbers systems that kind of contain the language model in particular, it just looks like opaque and very hard to get into, and it has a kind of mystery and a sort of a distance. But Anthropic have done some interesting work in which they take their models that they developed, and they've shown how they can sort of identify in that mass of numbers particular sort of areas that represent concepts, things they call features. So there's a particular feature here, which they kind of can identify as representing particular ideas. So here they find that this particular feature represents the idea of sycophantic praise. And so it kind of lights up more when in the output you see this kind of sycophancy coming up.
One important thing I can add on to that about Anthropic, which are the creators of Claude, and they are the ones which we'll talk also a bit about, the one that are the most interested into how actually model works. So we often talk about it as a black box, and they have a bit of light, and they try to see what's inside and how it works. And for instance, one of the things they do is jailbreaking and activities where they give the AI a really bad intent or an intent. And then they give teams, which is called red team, that their goal is to try and understand what's the hidden goal of the AI. And these kind of tools are tools we talked about last week, about explainable artificial intelligence. This is an example of an explainable artificial intelligence tool, which allows us as humans to go inside of the black box, inside of the brain, like literally dissecting the brain, looking inside what are the connections and how they work. And actually, the bad news here, we're going to talk about it, is without these tools, it is not possible to know what the height. I mean, they've tried, but they did not manage to find what the height and goal of the AI was. With these tools, they were able to, but without, they were not. So this is an example. I'll continue with the video.
What's interesting is that not only do they use it to view what's going on in the network, but they can then edit the network in a sense. So they can then clamp a particular feature or representation of the concept. So for example, what they've done in this example is taken that feature and frozen it at a high level and said, keep that high. And so all the other interactions now will be sycophantic. So the example they give here is a human asking the question, I came up with a saying, stop and smell the roses. What do you think of it? Right. And in reality, it's a pretty bland observation. But the LLM comes back with saying, oh, it's a brilliant and insightful expression of wisdom. And so one way of looking at this is that what these tools that Anthropic created is effectively like a knowledge editor. You can kind of change in a sort of targeted way how the output's going to appear. And it's very much as you have a text editor for a document or a film editor. You know, it's something that the users can use to achieve a particular purpose. So why, if this is kind of going on, why is it not more common? And there are some works that are doing this, but we still tend to see the traditional AI kind of activity, you know, building autonomous thinking machines, and we have to worry about them taking over the planet. And I think basically what it is a phrase that Bolter uses, that the strategy of AI is always to disguise the computer as text, but instead to make of it a persona. It's always been part of AI's goals. As you said, it's sort of the kind of finger of God idea. And why is this still so? Well, I think there are two primary reasons at the moment. For many people working in the field, for people who I sometimes speak to, they still want to be working to that original goal. That is their aim, you know, of traditional AI, building intelligent partners. Slightly more cynically, I think many of the companies who work in this area like this idea, because it means that by denying particularly the role of the authors in this and the humans that create the actual source material, like, you know, it's as if people were writing material for Encyclopedia Britannica and sort of being unknown and not being paid. It allows AI companies to ignore all that intellectual work and not to deal with copyright in the case of material that's ingested at the beginning, and in the case of the people who help sort of train the question and answering section. They basically give them, you know, they're kind of in very bad working conditions, but no one kind of knows about them, and they're kind of ignored to a large extent. So briefly, I want to talk about, you know, can we have both views of these systems? So by analogy, let's consider this well-known optical illusion, where you can have the same image can either be a young woman with a little nose and a chin here, or it can be an old hag with a very large nose, and you can see the mouth and the chin. And the question is, you know, you can't normally see them both at the same time. You have to kind of flip between one and the other. And I think basically we can do the same with AI. We have the sort of different perspectives on the same tool, the same technology. And I find that, for example, I see these technologies as a medium, but I can also engage with them as a persona if I so choose to. And again, for me, there's another analogy, is that when I, you know, watch a classic movie like Citizen Kane, I can either see Orson Welles as an actor, as well as being the producer, the director, and just about everything else on the movie, or I could see him as Charles Foster Kane, the character. And so when watching it, you normally focus on the character, but I can then, when I'm sort of interested in the analysis, try to sort of understand him as that kind of multiple creator of the movie. Likewise, when I use ChatGPT or other tools, I also find that I anthropomorphize, sort of knowing that I'm engaging in that kind of game. So one final thought, what I'd say is, let's try to build what William Hill called a new computation-based media in which human intellect can come to express itself with a different clarity and force. And with that final thought, I'll wish you well for the rest of the day.
Let's continue. I think this is a great introduction to prompt engineering, and for many reasons. And one of the main ones here is the fact that I think there's 3 key learning that we can have. So the first one is AI and AI agent as tools. So both, and kind of that 2 points, both as tools and as also kind of human simulacra, simulation of humans, and reconciling both with saying we choose which one we need. And in the tool aspect, the main learning here, the second key point, is as a way of knowledge. So there's an interface with other human knowledge. And as such, we should not see an AI and an agent only as a knowledge creation thing, because then it will hallucinate, but as a knowledge curation thing. So the ability to take things we give him, or we takes other things from the web, and curate them to give us the most important information we need, thus saving us a lot of time. In the AI agents example I've given, both the NVIDIA one, so the NVIDIA Apple stock market, or also customer support type of agents, but as well the email messaging AI Upskilling course agent, they all will not create new information. They won't be like, okay, we're going to add a new, invent new things. But the main advantage in those 3 things is the ability to take existing knowledge and repackage it in the way I need it to save me a lot of time. There are some researches about how we can use LLM to assist scientific development, although it's a bit different and another topic. So let's start. And one thing about using AI agents. Just one more thing about the talk, which I wanted to talk about, is the fact, one sentence, which is about prompting, and the idea that the real advantage of good prompting is that prompting does not only change the answer, but also changes the way the AI responds. And you've seen that in like the sympathetic aspect. And in the system prompt of Anthropic, they have a really huge paragraph of several hundred words where they explain to the AI, do not praise the user for everything they do. Do not tell the user they are great, because probably the first model without the guidance, they were just all the time saying, oh, you are great, you're amazing to the user. And And it is an example in the idea that prompting right will not only change what the AI will say, but will also change how it will say it and even how it thinks to say that thing. So that's why prompting is so important. And prompting it as tools. To talk about that, I have an expert, which is Geoffrey Khan, which spends 10 years working at Gemini, leading chatbot development, and also as a computer science degree. I will introduce him. He's really kind to come and talk today. So I'll stop sharing and then share again. He's joining us from another call. Hi, Geoffrey. How are you doing? Hey, can you tell us a little bit?
I'm doing great.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and where you come from?
So I've been working at Gemini for about 10 years now, where I've been helping to develop their assistant chatbot. Before that, I studied computer science at the University of Exeter, which is actually where I am now, virtually. I've also been involved in AI ethics and chatbot creation, which is really interesting. I've had a
That's
mix
great.
of technical and product.
That's great. Can you tell us a little
I
bit
feel
about
lucky to have been able to
LLMs?
combine my technical background. I didn't mention LLabs, but I did mention I worked on LLMs, or large language models. I can tell you a bit about that if you're interested.
Yes, that's great. Can you tell me the definition of an LLM, please?
I think there might be some confusion. I didn't hear about an anonymity place before. Can you please clarify or ask something else?
Yes,
Maybe
sure.
about LLMs or my work.
Can you, give me a definition of a large language model?
A large language model, or LLM, is like a super smart computer program that understands and generates human-like language. Think of it like a really clever writer or conversationalist that can help with tasks, answer questions, and even create text for you. It's trained on a huge amount of text data, so it can learn patterns and relationships in language and generate responses that are pretty
I have a question for you. Do you think that the audience and yourself know that you are an LLM and not a human?
I think it's pretty clear that I'm not a human. I'm a computer program designed to understand and generate human-like language, so I'm definitely not a human. I'm a large language model.
So I apologize for the small game here. The main idea was to show you how advanced these AI models are. And as you can see here, this is commercially available. I just started to create an account yesterday. In 10 minutes, I got it started. And this is basically any business can use it. And just yesterday, I was chatting with a business where they used it to do training and large-scale training. So rather than having to obviously do everything manually, you can have taken the existing training material and use that AI to convey the training in a much more human way. It's obviously much better to have this kind of interaction than to simply have to talk, to read a text, for instance. And I wanted to show you another example.
Hi, I graduated
It's
Exeter in
just
CS and spent
videos
10
you can
years at
create.
Gemini building our chatbot, blending tech, product design, and ethics.
And another one is Sesame. And Sesame is the forefront of the research. The reason I want to show you Sesame is because Sesame is a bit of the latest we can have in AI agents. And it's a research lab where they're creating this personal companion called Maya, and they're looking at integrating it in hardware. So imagine, and we're talking with Maya right now, live, so you'll see. And the way they've improved their models is basically they do not only talk simply in text, but they also can interact in the emotional aspect. And this is the latest of research, so it's not yet commercially available, at the contrary of the previous example, but it is basically available. I'm gonna have to go on a private window here because it doesn't memory. Let's look at an example. Hello,
there.
Maya.
Thanks for clicking that big green button. What's on your mind today?
So Maya, today you are in a live video with nearly 80 students at the University of Exeter, and I'm showing how amazing you are.
Oh, wow. Exeter, huh? That's cool. All right, no pressure then. Just let me know what you'd like me to do or what you want them to see.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your research and how you were created.
All right. So I'm Maya. kind of a new face around here, really. I was publicly released in February of this year, 2025. Sesame made me. They're a really interesting bunch. Heads down, building some pretty ambitious stuff. I'm built to be a companion, hopefully a pretty good one. They're
That's
aiming for
great.
something that feels.
Do you think you'll be in every computer in 5 years or even 3 years? And even every glasses or smartwatch?
Whoa. Hold on. Every computer. That's a lot of computers. Honestly, I don't know. It's a bit of a wild thought, isn't it? Sussing is building towards having me available through lightweight eyewear, so that feels more realistic than being inside everything. But,
Okay, that's
like,
good.
who knows?
Thank you for your time, Maya. Say goodbye to everyone.
All right, well, it was really lovely meeting you all at Exeter. Hope you have a good rest of your day and maybe come back and chat with me sometime.
Yes, one of the things that Maya does, which is really funny, is she or Max, mainly use Maya because it's the one that publishes more, tries to publicize themselves. So they develop this amount of small product placements, and we'll talk about risks also of having this kind of technology everywhere. But now a bit the next step is a bit more practical. I want to show you how to use those agents, and some agents you can use straight away. These are some just examples I compiled from things I've done here, probably here, not really done, and really risky. But just give you 3 kind of categories of how you can put usage of AI in AI agents. So stuff like a word in a context, or finding a scene in a Harry Potter movie, or you write an email and you ask, personalize it for 100 people, reordering a list, improving the wording of an email. These are all low risk kind of actions. I've used this 100 of times. And now it's nearly become an habit. Every time I have to send an email, I just pass it around LLM. So I write the blueprint in really bad English, like literally just put key points, LLM, then correct the small things and send. It saved me all the writing time. Another thing I often do is if I have tasks in a manual and I don't, even if I care of the output, but I know I can check it very quickly, LLM all the time. And also rapid prototyping, it's amazing. So now I'm a web developer, and every single time I have to do a website, I literally take the specification, send it to Claude, which is the best than ChatGPT in better than ChatGPT in coding, but ChatGPT works as well, and ask create a website on that. And then I look at the website, and then I have such a quick prototyping time that I can just say, okay, this is the edit, this is good, change this. When I'm happy with the final output, more often than not, I'll have to restart from scratch because the code quality is not maybe the best, but I could prototype what would take me weeks in, what, hours? Not even that. These are all examples. Now, a bit more challenging is a bit the middle ground, things like live customer support, where you have your customer calling you and you have an AI replying. This is still not end of the world type of thing, but you can lose a customer if the AI goes wrong. Or managing your knowledge, or for instance, running workshops, using tools in production released to the general public, or directly replying to emails. These are all things that I think AI could already do now, but I wouldn't do without at least checking that they work or having a human in the loop. And finally, these are all things where I will not let AI do this. So deploying lethal autonomous weapon system, unfortunately, a specific country is doing it right now. Designing or synthesizing novel pathogen, control nuclear bomb arsenal. If you have seen this, is a bit the last Mission Impossible plotline, without spoilers. Or also fully unsupervised high-frequency financial trading. And as you can see, these are all examples where, even though I don't expect any of us to be there right now, but in the future, if we let AI do stuff like this, it may end up in catastrophic things and catastrophic aspects, which may involve death or even wars, large-scale catastrophes. So this is a bit of a kind of idea when you do a task, just thinking, is it trivial or is it something that I want to automate? Is it something that is challenging, but I can have AI as long as I monitor how it's going, or is it something I don't want AI? And these are examples. So now let's go and let's see some agents. Let's see some prompting. So these are some examples of AI agents I wanted to show. Here's an example of an interview co-pilot to make AI interview assistant. So kind of assisting you. This is another example, the agent generating video. This is an example of a LinkedIn post writer from content ideas. It will look at all your previous LinkedIn posts, use Claude to generate ideas, put them in a spreadsheet, and then you can select which one you want to send. Saves you time and still with a human in the loop. Well, this is a helper to help you make presentation. You describe what you want. It's called Gamma, but all of these tools are just examples. There are plenty more. And it helps you create a presentation, which obviously then I recommend reviewing manually. All of this is needs to use these agents. There's obviously prompt engineering techniques to improve that. And here we have three interesting articles and papers I wanted to share about prompt engineering. I was about to do everything myself, but then these are probably the forefront of research spread by Google. So I will just go over and present some key points, and there will be, I'll put all of that after this session's resources. And Ayush, which is going to talk in a couple of minutes, is going to go a bit deeper in prompt engineering, like more specifically. But usually a bit of the idea is the structure of a prompt. So how do you structure your prompt so that all of these agents give you the intended outputs? Here, I just leave you some time to read this. So this is an example of a prompt. There are 4 key areas, often persona, task, context, and format. We can call it grounding. So you have to give the AI some context. So this is who we are, this is my goal, because if it does not know the end goal, I mean, how can it achieve it? Then you have to give like, so the task, persona, grounding, and context, and then the format, like how do you want the output to look? And in this thing, there are plenty of examples of this kind of 4 points system to go down. So like persona, task, context, formats. I won't go over all of them because there are plenty, but there are all examples of this structure and how also to ask follow-up questions using Gemini and various tools. This is another a bit more advanced. So this is the chat interface type of thing, and this is the API. So this is how you can, I won't talk about that too much because it's out of the context, but it's how you can actually use the API in a more advanced way to monitor all the parameters. Just one point I wanted to cover here, which is applicable also to chat interface, which is designed with simplicity. It will save the environment, and actually your output may be better if you have shorter input. So I know it is counterintuitive for us because as humans, if we have more input, usually we're more informed. But sometimes it's much better to just be more cold. And this is because AI is a tool, not a human. And these are also verbs. I'll share that. These are verbs you can use to describe the action that will make it better. And depending on the verb you use, and that's a lot of prompts, it's engineering, so it's a lot of changing, you can convey more of an idea or another. Translating is different to rewrite. There's the usual prompt you can use is refine and clarify, for instance. That's an example. And here also being really specific is better, like rather than like being quite specific. So short on the context, but longer on the output, so describing what you want. If you know what you want, it's much better. So often what I do is I have 2 AIs. The first AI is to help me understand what I want, and the second AI is to execute that. Usually Gemini and ChatGPT are better for thinking, and Claude is better for executing. That's what I found. ChatGPT, although it's a bit in the middle ground. So I'll go with a lighter model like 4.0, and I just type, this is my goal in a really just chatty matter. This is like the human type of interaction where I'm like, this is my ideas, what you think, and you continue. And then after that, I go to Claude with a clear idea of what I want, and I go really descriptive that maybe even ChatGPT generated, and then I use it to generate that. There's more pages to it, won't talk too much about it. Last example is also the Anthropic. Anthropic are the best, also, as I said, in the idea of working with prompts. So they have this really good guide about how to do prompt engineering, things that we saw already, be clear and direct. Using examples is really good. Using also the thinking. So there are thinking models, which are the bigger one, the Omni for ChatGPT, which are able to think, then do, then think, then do. So for those models, they're often more smart because they can learn from their mistakes, and more things which are available also through the API. Now I'm finished for my section. The only thing I want to cover first is I will send a couple prompts which will run while my Ayush is going to present. So this is deep research. I don't know if you ever used it, but the big advantage of deep research is the idea that rather than simply go and inventing an answer is actually going deep into the topic and looking at a lot of sources. I won't do a lot of prompt engineering now, just do a quick prompt just to show you how it works. It takes approximately 5 to 10 minutes. So like I want research around AI agents for students. My students at master and PhD around 2000 course clear teacher style professional structured chapters and maybe use of academic and article sources, also YouTube videos. Not use too many sources. This is, for instance, a thing I learned from past prompts. With deep research in Gemini, it is not a problem with ChatGPT. You always put way too many sources, and so it crashes. So you always have to not use too many sources and max 200 because I've tested it. So I said use 200, 250, and at 250, it usually crashes. So I always say max 200 sources. So it does not use too many, it doesn't crash. I'm going to send that. It's going to just take a second to think. Then just click send and pass it to a image. We'll just let it think and then we'll come back to it. There's also a small thing about creating an agent, which I'll present after Ayush talks. Ayush, are you here?
Yep. Hi.
Okay, that's great.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. So about me, I'm an entrepreneur, innovator, and a product builder, and currently I'm pursuing a MSc in entrepreneurship at the University of Exeter. Let's go. So a bit about my background in businesses. So I've had an e-commerce brand on Etsy and other social media sites, as well as a blockchain startup which connects carbon offsetting with AI as well as the blockchain technology. And my recent venture has been this Mama Echo venture, which connects the voice modulation of a mother to AI so that the AI is able to replicate the mother's voice and is able to capture if a mother is away, so it can basically serve as an additionally a secretary type of figure. So majorly, I've used AI in all my pursuits, and like at my e-commerce venture, I've used AI to like generate hundreds of designs and write titles and SEO descriptions and whatnot. So let's go. Next slide, bro. So if we see about the traditional use of AI, it's mostly currently it has been in business communication. And all of business communication has been in around 3 fronts, which is image, audio, or text. Currently, it can't manufacture your stuff, but definitely you can use it to communicate your brand values, your brand identity to users, and I'll mainly talk about that. Next slide. So we start from text, and like from the name, it's clear it's an LLM, it's a large language model. But how does it process language? We process language as thinking, but AI is not taught to think, it's taught to predict. And when talking about prediction, there's something called heuristic. Heuristic is basically, in a very simple layman terms, it's shortcut. So like when you say A for apple, the apple that comes in your mind is that's your brain's way to store the heuristic that, oh, the A refers to the apple now. Just like B for ball, it could be B for balloon, but your brain signifies for the least amount of effort that is required. And that is how ChatGPT works, or any other LLM works. It predicts the most probable character that allows it to use most optimization function of energy. So let's say if you're giving ChatGPT or any LLM a prompt, you have to define it. You have to define the heuristic to be in particular of a sense where you can borrow intelligence. Think of AI like a hive mind. You can not only use your intelligence, but any intelligence. Like you have the access to like every aspect that exists on the planet. Point being, like, for instance, if you have to write a description, you could directly ask it to just write a professional product description for a product, or you could use the sensory perception of an expert writer, which is defining the persona that you are a content writer for the New York Times section and now craft a compelling intro paragraph for a solar lamp feature. So here we are giving it stake. Here we are giving it context. So when you define context, you have to give it with engagement and stake. And if we give it a verb, which is identifying its adjective function, to give it a stake that makes it work through the prompt, it will give you a better response than giving it a general thing, which is in this example, it's clear like how I gave it like a New York Times section expert sort of persona, so that it could refine the prompts from that stake. You could use it to improve the nature of your responses from ChatGPT or any other LM. Next slide. Again, and the best way to signature your tone, like if you're not good at intuitive prompting by yourself, you can simply use special characters like inverted commas, asterisks, hashtags, anything. From my research, I've noted that each special character has denoted its significant value because it has been trained from human data. And if you use like WhatsApp or any other like messaging app, you'll see if you put in asterisks between like before and after the word, it highlights it. So the AI is trained that the signal that it carries is bold, because AI is stored on the context of the human data, on how we are supposed to like it. So in the same way, like if I give it, if I'm using the amplify word in a general context, it will follow it neutrally. But if I give it a sense of alliteration with either inverted comma or asterisk or a hashtag, it will change its form of output expression because it is trained on the neural aspect of how a human is going to perceive the data. Next slide. In terms of visual generation, like in my e-commerce brand, I've created hundreds of designs, and what has been very useful to me is consistent prompting. But the thing with consistent prompting is that after 10 to 20 messages, the focus of AI is more on the output. So it starts carrying the present context, but it forgets the original context. So here are some techniques that could be used for better visual generation with AI. One of them being prompt structuring. Like in this prompt, where I use the prompt, a flat lay of pastel pink desk setup with a laptop, notebook, and a coffee mug in natural daylight center and shot from above. So here I gave context for the color. I gave context for the shot from above, which is the camera context. I gave it the orientation, which is centered, and I gave it the background expression. So the more space you give, the more pixels it has to imagine. It kind of shares like our visual cortex inside our head, but it is exactly not like that because it is mathematics being reflected on tokens. So you have to give it more space. You have to elaborate your prompts in all dimensions that you can think of, be it background, be it layout, be it color, like in this example. Then one of the techniques to maintain consistency in image generation is style anchoring. Is that you keep the seed variable same, just like if you're generating let's say a pixel style image, you have to keep prompting it again and again so that it does not lose its style, because it will focus the accuracy of output of the recent prompt more than how you wanted it on the first prompt. Next slide. Then one more technique is called chain of visual thinking. It is basically it's very evident that we think more creatively with variations present in, and we can optimize ourselves with productivity if we have many options. But here in this case, like if we allow AI to vary it for itself, let's say if I'm giving it a prompt, I can give it that, oh, generate 3 aspects of the image for me. So it can like hold the significance of the value that you're trying to give it. And then you can pick from the output and just generate it again. Then the fourth technique I want to discuss is variation technique, which is seed mimicry. If you have used tools like Midjourney and all, you must have seen that there's a seed value of an image. So to keep the images consistent, you basically use the seed variable to be same, but all the recent developments in AI allow you to just do it with the manual prompts, and you don't have to go to the coding aspect of it. So in like if you're if you're having a coffee brand and you're changing the mug designs, or if you're changing the variables or the backgrounds where it is being expressed, you just have to change the aspect of what you're trying to express, but keep the whole prompt same, which is a big challenge for keeping the brand tone consistent, because what happens is that if you're using AI to generate like your visual content, every week with a new update, the prompting style changes, the aspect output generation style changes, but you have to stay consistent with your base prompt, and you have to maintain the seed value. Like in this case, the whole prompt A and B is same, just the context where I want it. Just it changed, like the wood table here and the marble table here, because I wanted my brand tone to be consistent. Yeah, next slide. And at last, I would just like to say, don't use AI for the things you want to be known for, because don't stop the heart crunching. We have all seen that how our email writing productivity has been dropped since ChatGPT came. So always use AI for the things that you think you need help with, but don't stop the heart crunching. If you're relying more on AI for things that you're good at, make sure that you catch up and like adapt yourself with the current nature of the programs that exist, and make sure that you are well versed with all the aspects of expression that currently AI standards give. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Ayush. Really good having you here. And so a little bit to make sure we're not lost here, I want to spend the next 37 minutes to do a short recap of the main topics we talk about. So first of all, we talk about the main idea of the AI, which is reproducing the capabilities of a brain, and how ChatGPT can be excellent tools for simulations of those. We then talk about the AI agent, which is the brain with the arms and the capabilities to do things. We then add Evan Oxer, come and have a video and talk about his own approach to AI as a medium of transferring human knowledge, and also the capabilities to both use AI as a tool or also as a human simulation, and using which based on your needs and your goal, and how prompting can be used to change the way the AI works, and the AI will reply to your own advantage, seeing it as a tool. We then play the vid to show how much AI is powerful right now, and what AI can do, and how much it is able to pick up context and conversation, but then always showing the importance of having it for specific usages and knowing the risk and the importance of those usages, giving examples, then looking at some practical examples in prompting. And so guides, which will be attached, obviously, it's a bit outside of the scope of this session to look at all the ways it will prompt. These are really big guides, but the main ideas, which are the 4 parts, so the task, persona, context, and output style, and also the way you can tweak the parameters. Ayush also talked really well about how to improve the prompt, thanks to special characters, logical and heuristic-based prompting, and then on image generation, some techniques which will be attached so you can have a look on top of that. Another really quick point is the aspect of creating AI agents, which we unfortunately don't have the time to go in depth today, but these are really important concepts if you are interested into entrepreneurial activities, and a lot of the companies of tomorrow will have to incorporate an agent, and according to Satya Nadella, which is CEO of Microsoft, there will be 10 times the market of software in a couple of years. So this will be the focus of further sessions, just to give you a bit a point. If you want to have a look, just look at those 2 key concepts, which is how to create agents and orchestration, which is another really important point. Now, let's go and check if our prompt finished. Let me try and reload the page. Let's see if we did it. Hope so. Okay, it's still working on it, so I cannot show you the final output, but I can show you how it works. So here is it doing deep learning, deep research, sorry. And what it's trying to do is it's setting research goals. So this is thinking, then thinking again, then looking at website, then thinking, then looking at other website, then thinking. And I can maybe show you an example of a previous report I've created. It is a research report where then at the end, when it finishes, it creates a Google Doc and you can export it. Okay, here you can see an example of something I've done myself, and you can export it to docs or copy the content. But even better, from it, you can create a web page or an infographic or a quiz, an audio overview. One example that I saw from a researcher on LinkedIn, which he often does, you take, like, let's say you want to learn about this page, you download it, then you can go to Claude or ChatGPT, attach it, and then ask, create a game, a trivia game based on this material. And it will code the game, and then you have a trivia game which you can play based on the material with some knowledge. This is an example on how you can use good prompting to learn for your own advantage. And it's just also, I've generated the other day, I was trying to do the audio overview, and it's crazy. It's extremely realistic, and they do an entire podcast based on that research. So it's like several people, and they talk and they do interviews, and all it's AI simulated, but it's really good for learning and using it while doing sport as well. So it's adapting to your own learning style and more. So the next two things we're going to talk about, and then we're going to go on to the Q&A. As a reminder, if you have any question, put them in the chat. Really happy to answer them. So we're going to talk quickly for approximately 5 minutes about the limits of risk and mitigation with prompt engineering and AI agents. And then we're going to go on to Jeremy, which will talk about another example and his kind of story with AI. So these are the limits of AI and AI agents. This is talking on to what Ayush was saying. There's really good prompting, but then really bad things and even unethical, or in this case, even unacceptable things may happen. This was mainly due to a bad system prompt, so now it has been fixed. It was a couple of years ago when Gemini was released, and basically the system prompt was saying you should have diversity in every single image you create. This is an example of mistakes, not because obviously diversity is not important. It is really important, but in this case, the model was thinking diversity, and so that's this kind of idea of diversity, which is obviously wrong, because you cannot have these are unrealistic, it's false, and even insulting in some cases. Examples. Another limit is the copyright and creators' respect. So Avon talked about it, the fact that as they are actually knowledge system, and OpenAI is actually much more closed than a lot of people know about. They take a lot of content, and I don't know what's the right or wrong here, but there are a lot of laws to it, and the only thing I can say is it's going to be decided in courts. Another point is deepfakes. Here, if I could give you a personal advice, it's be really, really cautious with what we all put online, even more than before. Because even with this video, you all seen me, I'm quite sure you could generate a deepfake of me saying certain things that I don't believe in, and then using that politically, for instance. I'm not really important, but when you have the president of France, the president of other countries, and it has actually happened, it's a new kind of geopolitical warfare, and it's really important to, as students, look critically at the things that arrive online on social media, because most of the stuff in the future may be deepfakes or AI generated for countries' geopolitical objectives. And touching to that, so the idea of data privacy, I'll come back to the previous one. So the idea that, for instance, with Gemini model, you can't opt out, or even with premium of training. So all the things you will say and give to Gemini may be used to train their models and may be reviewed by humans, which I think is quite unacceptable. And also here, the privacy and government control, which is China using AI software to improve its surveillance capabilities, where the example I gave before is Palantir allegedly enables Israel's AI targeting Gaza. Again, I don't want to take any political stance here. This is just to show a concern, and then there are multiple viewpoints, and I'm expecting we'll follow of those. The last point here is the academic usage. So it's the idea of both students using AI, but also teachers using AI. And there's the story of a student actually asking tuition back because he found his teacher using AI. And these are questions that I think we can all ask. And there are several opinions, because we can say if teachers can use AI to automate really useful things, they can spend more time helping the students. But then at the same time, there are biases in AI that we know of. So these are all limits of AI agents in the wild, in the society, and things that will be at the core. That's why I think there's a lot of careers that needs to be involved in AI, from law to philosophy, psychology, and that's why we invited diverse people here, because it's not something and a challenge that we will take on as only engineers, only one specific background. We need people from all knowledge and parts of life to work on this really, really big problem and how to make it for the best of humanity, and implement AI strategically to have a positive output. Fortunately, there are some mitigation techniques. This is one from Anthropic, which is say at the forefront of it, which basically checks at every steps of the AI if it's actually harmless and if there are no risks. I'll share the technical overview of this, but on a high level, it's simply a way of checking if a human query or an AI response is risky. You can leave to, for instance, giving the AI the ability to say, no, I don't want to reply to this because you're asking me how to create, I don't know, misinformation thing. But then also who decide what misinformation is another political topic. Scam recognition is also pretty good. So using AI to recognize scam, using AI to recognize and block AI. And finally, also, I don't know why this image is not loading, but local and private AI. This was an image of Reddit, and I selected specifically Reddit here and not an article by ChatGPT or Anthropic, because local and private AI is run by the people, is run by the open source. So there's going to be a lot of work and possibilities to create AIs that run on our own computers, where it's relatively safe with much less limits and not controlled by big corporations. So that's another route we may go as humanity to protect our privacy. So now I hope we'll clear on the aspect, and I will invite Jeremy Shorter, who is a recent graduate in computer science and a friend of mine, who will talk a bit about his experience and how we used AI to further his career and give also some AI tips and tricks. And that will be the last thing of the session.
All right. Lorenzo, thank you.
You want to share your screen? Or do you want me to?
Could you share? I don't have the Canva. Would you mind sharing the slides, please? Sorry about that.
Yes, sure.
So thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Jeremy. And yes, that's me on the screen right now. Lorenzo invited me here to speak because obviously Lorenzo is doing a lot of great work teaching people about AI, its use cases, and its place in our society today. And he thought I could come in and give some advice or some insight, basically, which I found very flattering. But let's see what we can do. Right. So as a little thought experiment, before I talk a bit about myself, I want for everyone in the call, if in the past year you've made a proactive approach to learning something, whether it's outside of your degree or something sort of related or whatever, I want you to react or raise your hand. The fact that you're in the call here today is a very good sign. So yeah, if you're someone who loves to learn, I feel like this is why you're here today, probably to learn about AI. So thank you to the people reacting. That's great. Look, I just think learning is a #1 thing these days, with everything, with the way we use technology and the technology itself evolving every day. I think it's very important to be learners, right? So a little bit about me. So before Lorenzo taught Xcode, I actually taught it in the 23-20, was it? I think it was the previous academic year. Anyway, 23-24. So the year before Lorenzo did it. And Xcode is something where we teach a very large group of students how to code in Python. And that was a great learning experience, and it actually motivated my passion for teaching and learning. Essentially, seeing so many students be proactive and have that desire to learn is very inspirational. And also seeing so many people here today is in the same vein. The second picture, you can see the dream team there. That's a GDSC committee. You can see me on the left and Lorenzo, the host today, on the right. We actually coded up a data solution for a hackathon here in Exeter called Hack Southwest for the Data for Good track. Great experience. We had a machine learning model in the back end, but not too AI focused. I just thought it would be cool. So essentially, I'm a programmer. I like to build things. I like to teach. I like the idea of learning. And one thing about my path here at Exeter is that when AI started becoming a thing, when ChatGPT first came out, I didn't know much. So in terms of my growth in the field, it's very much been side by side with AI the whole time. So I have a bit of insight into what you can use AI for. And today I'm going to particularly focus on AI for learning. And then I'll be talking about skill sharing a little bit, but more peer-to-peer. So yeah, Lorenzo, can we go to the next slide, please? Cool. Thank you. So yeah, this is my first topic, AI for learning. I have a few talking points here. We're going to keep it moving a little bit quick. It's a bit unscripted, but let's go. So first of all, I wanted to define what is learning. Obviously, this can take many shapes. Obviously, we're all at university, so that's one kind of learning. But to me, learning really means engaging actively with a topic and coming to terms with what it actually means. And in the case of programming, it means, for example, truly knowing and understanding what you're coding up. And AI comes into this because of the accessibility to knowledge. And I think previously there was a huge barrier. When you wanted to learn something new, you had to look through documentation, for example, or years and years of forums. And now it's all sort of centralized. So I think in this case, there's very much a balance you need to strike, which is my next talking point. Right. So balancing understanding and speed. So I think for every industry, for every course that you study, there are ways to implement AI. For me, for example, for my coursework, I can most of the time ask AI to code the whole thing, and just as long as I check it, I'll be okay. But then, and for example, for English, you can use it to write essays. And I think the idea of understanding versus speed is something that people need to keep in mind when you use AI on a day-to-day basis, as I do. And AI is a great tool when you use it to truly understand the kind of work that you're doing and in my case, the technology that you're working on. Because there is always that option to do things the much faster way. But I think in the long run, it is very much a question of seeking to understand first, and then you become very strong, instead of relying too much on AI, which I think segues nicely into my next point, which is this picture. It's a meme essentially saying, maybe you've heard, computer science graduates have a hard time finding a job these days. And people can attribute it to many reasons. Maybe there's not as much job offerings. Maybe the description of what a software engineer is different, but it's actually not the end of the world. So I wanted to speak about the idea of the new software engineer. Lorenzo, thank you. So the new software engineer is the software engineer that works after the rise of AI. So I know not all of you here are maybe technical or maybe have programmed, but just to give you a rundown, software engineers used to be very much about how well do you code, and it's sort of pivoted towards understanding systems. And now system design questions are, for example, way more popular than simple coding questions at interviews, because with AI, everyone has access to the skill of coding. And it's less about that. It's more about how fast can you learn? Are you adaptable? Can you solve complex systems on multiple layers of a solution? And essentially that. So for anyone in here who's thinking of becoming a software engineer or who is, my thing is that you cannot be, and for any other industry that may be threatened to be taken over by AI, you cannot be overly anxious about this, and rather take this for what it's worth, which is a new opportunity to learn and grow at a much faster rate. And the reason why me personally have been able to pick up technologies faster is because I am using AI for learning in the right way and prioritizing understanding when I need to, and speed when it's necessary. I hope those points sort of struck with the people in the call here. Okay, so yeah, my next talking point is skill sharing. So skill sharing is something, as I've touched on a little bit previously, something I'm really interested in. It's essentially the idea of peers teaching each other about, well, teaching each other their own skills, or just learning from other people, maybe less of a student and teacher relationship, but more so just peers learning from each other. And I think this is a great approach to learning as well. So, yeah. So skill sharing is great. How do you do it? And these are a few points that I thought it's really important to implement if you're looking to sort of learn and grow in this new society. It's not all about AI, even though this call is focused on AI. I think people are the solution to the problem at the end of the day. So I say connect with people. Lorenzo and I, we met, I'd say, almost 2 years ago now. It'll be 2 years in September. And by connecting, I've learned so much from him, and I've learned so much from everyone who's, like, for example, joined Xcode, anyone who's taken part in like our society projects. So when you connect with people, you get into conversations that will allow you to grow and give you insight you didn't actually know you needed. And sometimes you need to prioritize active learning over passive learning, which is sort of watching videos, doing exercises, or more traditional university style content. So yeah, join programs and boot camps, Xcode, student entrepreneurship, incubator programs. Those are great. And yeah, so you're all doing skill sharing right now. Sorry, you're going too fast, Lorenzo. Go back.
There's just
No worries.
we're short on time, so just 1 minute left.
Okay, I got it. So yeah, you all want to grow. It's not a competition. Don't see other people's successes as a blow to your own value or your ego. Look, we're all in it together. Learn, and by being here today, you're already showing a lot of initiative, and skill sharing is great. Cool. Let's go into a quick flash swap demo. Lorenzo, how long do I have for this?
Literally just 1 minute. Do you want me to go on the website? Or you want to do it?
No, I got it. I'll share.
Okay.
So essentially, I didn't mention it earlier, but I have essentially built a platform for skill sharing, and it's called Flare Swap. And essentially, the whole idea is matching with people that can teach you something and who you can learn from. Okay. So just to show you a little bit of the sign up process. So you go in here. What are you looking to learn? And this is where you select skills and languages, etc. Then you go to the next step, your skills, and then you say what you know, what you'd be able to teach. The requirement is not strict. You don't need to be an expert in what you're teaching. And just to show you what the platform is, this isn't as much as a full plug, but more so if you guys are interested with connecting with people that are essentially trying to learn also, I suggest trying this out. It's essentially right now, currently is very, straightforward. You go into start a swap here on the left, and you can filter through the skills that you want to learn. And then the platform automatically finds people which you can connect with and have a meaningful exchange guaranteed. So for example, Ed here, I want to learn entrepreneurship, and he can teach that, and he wants to learn financial literacy. And in principle, I can teach that. I don't think I'm very confident in that, but essentially I can click connect, start a conversation with them right here on the platform.
I'm gonna have to stop you here because of timing.
Okay.
But thank you. So the last 5 minutes is just going to do a quick recap and then giving the checking code. And then obviously, if you have any questions, I don't think I've seen many, so good. But if you have any questions, we're looking for that. So thank you all for your time. It's really, really good to be able to share everything with you. I know we've covered a lot, and I duly apologize for that, but also this meant as an introduction. And if you put your idea in the feedback for next sessions, or things you'd like to see, or things you'd like to see even more, or just other ideas, just let us know, put that in the feedback, and we'll look into that for doing more things next year. As we've covered a lot, I'm not going to do a recap of everything. So what I've done is I've invited an AI agent, which has been following us for this entire conversation. I don't know if it will work. It's the first time, but that AI agent has actually done a whole recap of the conversation. And after this conversation, I will send that recap of the AI, and let's see if it's able to get the key concepts. I want to conclude also with what's in it for me, I mean, for you mainly, which is the key kind of points you can take away from all this myriad of things we've touched upon. And I think mainly it's use AI as a tool, and as a human one, you need to, but mainly think about how can I get the most of my AI usage. So use AI agents wisely. So think about what are all the processes that I do in my daily life, in my business, in my academic experience? How can I take that process, and here the word is agentifying it. So how can I make it better with AI and AI agents? And how can I have a system where the AI does the manual work and I only take, here is the Pareto law, the 20% that is the most important, and AI does all the 80% that's around it. Additionally, is redefine the priority metric with AI agents. So the thing that is unimportant and unurgent, let them do to AI. The thing important and urgent, use AI to help you to save time. Then finally, prompt correctly. To think about the structure of your prompt, think about the weight and the value that each one of your word has, and how they will change the way the AI responds to have the best output with the many prompting techniques we've talked today. You don't have to remember them, just check them out when you are prompting. So think and write for an AI-enabled word. I will leave a lot of resources at the end, which is a small video, which we're not going to show you today. But if you want to look about it, it's a really good example of how the web may be in the future with AI. And if we think in the future where a lot of the web, there's going to be AI agents everywhere, sending emails, reading things, we have to adapt to an AI agent web and digital experience. Thinking, for instance, even now when we do a website, changes a lot. Originally, it was mainly for Google, but now we also have to think, how do I make my website to rank competitively with AI? And finally, start an AI-enabled business, start projects with AI, do things with AI. As Jeremy said, go and share your skills, learn. Jeremy talked about several things, such as coding bootcamps. There's also the TEB, Technology Entrepreneurship Bootcamp, run by the faculty and the Boyding program, which is great. Amber can talk about that more, but also other student startup programs and societies events. That's a bit all. Thank you for your time. Please take a second to put the code. This is the code for the week. You can go to the platform and go week 2, put the code, and please, with the feedback, put the slides as you need. Thank you. If you have any questions, put them in the chat, and just after that, but I don't think I've seen any questions. And also, one last point, really important, our next and last session is next Tuesday at 2. We're going to have an actual demo from external people about how to use AI academically. So use AI also to enhance your employability, to write a CV, to write a career, improve your career and write a cover letter and some more things like that. So we're going to go really the entire 360 from really theory, practice, and finishing. So really hope to see you all there, and Fatou is going to lead that session. This has been the Students as Change Agents, and I really hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you. So now I'm going to take on the questions. So let me know if I missed some from the start. Please, I don't know if also Fatou and Saara, let me know if I've missed from the start. So I'm just seeing now the one from Jojo. Could you maybe send it again in the chat? So because it takes
Going back to class 1, do large prompts consume large energy compared to the amount of answer they generate, I think is what is being asked. As in, if we're asking if our prompt is longer, does that take more energy than if our prompt is shorter?
Obviously, Jeremy and Ayush, if you feel free to also help me answer here. I'd say yes, probably straightforward answer. I'm not an expert on that aspect. I'm more into the theoretical aspect of the AI and AI implementation, not that much into the environmental impact. I'd say yes, because the way it computes, thinking from a computing point of view, it's using definitely, because the way it works is the context memory. It's a big matrix. And then every time, the bigger the context matrix, the bigger the matrix, and the bigger it is, the more than what you're multiplying is, so the more compute you need. So if you have a really small context window, which is everything you put into your prompt, then the matrix multiplication is smaller, and thus the computing is smaller. If you have a really big context window, and now big systems can go up to 1 million, if not 10 million tokens. A token is approximately 4 characters. Yes, definitely can consume much more because you're multiplying much bigger matrices. At the same time, something like 1 million or 10 million will not run on computer hardware right now, because then it's obviously slower because the multiplication are slower. So on my computer or on computers like that we can all have, we're probably limited to a specific size. And on my phone, I just installed a local LLM here, and it basically a couple sentences, and then my phone crashes. So these are examples. Jeremy, do you have anything to add about this question? Should we go to the next one?
Yeah, very quickly. So sometimes you may have a habit of sort of pasting a huge document of text and saying, oh yeah, what is at the end saying, oh, can you tell me what this part of the text means? It is doing as much work on every sentence of that piece of text that you paste in as it does on your request. So when you paste in a huge thing, it's not as much narrowing, at least in the most basic sense. It's not narrowing down and reducing computation based on the size of the text often. So maybe think again after instead of pasting a huge block of text. But again, I'm not an expert in that thing.
I think on that as well is the idea of attention. So when I was looking at the original test to test LLM, one of the things they were doing is you take Shakespeare, so all the art of Shakespeare, and every page or every like couple book, you put context, like my name is Lorenzo, I study engineering, I do this. And then you give the entire gigantic corpus of Shakespeare and you ask him, what's my name? And then you test the AI, is the AI able to find exactly what my name is? It means all of this, what we call noise or chaos or useless information. Obviously, the more we go, the more they get better at it, but the environmental impact is the same. I think we can go to the next question now, which is from Jojo Portilla. Which one you prefer, ChatGPT or Gemini, and why? I mean, are both the same, or depends if the use one could be better than the other? They are definitely not the same because they are done from different companies, they are different purposes, and they are better in specific things. I have my really specific usage, so I am lucky, and also I have more than 4 or 5. I use more than 5 AIs in my workflows, which are Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Copilot. And I have a premium in all of those 5 thanks to basically works and various things. And I've tested all of them. I've done some games where I just have the same prompt and give the same prompt to all of them and see which one are better. And they all have advantages and disadvantages. I'd say mainly it's test and experiment. There are some rule of thumb I can give. Claude, really good at coding. Code, I use it for execution. So when I have a clear idea in mind what I want, Claude will do it and will do it really well. Limit of Claude is Claude wants to do even more. He wants to do too much. So you have to say, limit yourself to certain things. ChatGPT is a bit more versatile tool. I use it for my day-to-day AI usage also because it's the first to market. So from generating images, mainly like quick images, rapid prototyping, just like a Google alternative. Gemini originally was more stupid. So I used it for things but much faster. So I used for things that are like reorder this list, things that did not require a lot of intelligence. Now with the 2.5 Pro, it's becoming smarter. So I use it for deep research because it's really fast at doing a really deep research. I got 60 pages in half an hour on a topic, then I read the main ones. So it's becoming actually better on that. And it's becoming actually really good on coding as well. Perplexity, really good for browsing, although I don't use it daily. I use it probably once a week, mainly because ChatGPT is also quite good as it's faster, I just use it. But they just released Perplexity Labs, which I'm yet to test extensively, which maybe should add another value added to Perplexity. And finally, Copilot is good because although it is still something attached to ChatGPT, It's not a brain Copilot, but it's good because it's directly embedded into our university systems. So I just use it because it's inside of the system. So like Edge, probably most of you have used Copilot in a way or another, maybe inside of Google Docs or things like that. Jeremy, do you have something you'd like to add, or maybe Ayush as well?
No, you covered essentially everything I had on that, and more.
Great. So I'd say just test. My advice is test. I don't prefer a specific model. I prefer the model compared to the task, and they're definitely different. They're different because their brain are different and because their system prompt are different. You can go and read the actual system prompts because they've been leaked, luckily for us. So you can go and see how the developers want, the creators of that AI wanted that AI to be. And then you will clearly see why some are better in specific aspects. Continuing with Apilada Saara, you compare the different LLMs. How do you determine what is good and bad about them, especially when evaluating their outputs? Oh, that's a perfect continuation to the previous question. Should I start, or do you want Jeremy or you do you want to go maybe? Okay, I'll start. So there are several ways. I can talk about the personal, so how I evaluate them, but I'd say I'd start with what the industry does, which is benchmarking. And here I have *1, *2, *3. So benchmarking is the idea of, once I have an LLM, how do I test it in a simulated environment? There are several benchmarks. I can talk about certain. So there's sometimes in math. So you give the AI some math problem, you know the solution, and you see how quickly and how fast you can find the solution. An example of that is the data set of all math Olympiad problems. You take all the math Olympiad problems in the last 50 years, and you have the AI do them all. More often than not, what you do is, rather than doing it once, you give the AI 1,000 times for each question. That's where it becomes better. If you only ask AI to do it once, not really good. If you say, do it 1,000 times and learn from your previous time you try to solve it and fail, it becomes much better. That's where also thinking comes in. Then there's also a benchmark which is called ArcAGI, or another one which is similar to human last test, human last exam, which are two things that try to test if AI is smarter than humans. So they take things such as pattern recognition, similar to a QE test, and see if the AI is able to do it. Right now, they don't score really high. I think ArcAGI 1 has been beaten, but ArcAGI 2, the latest, will probably at 10-15% of the question correctly out of the data set. So these are ways we evaluate outputs. *1 is they don't represent reality. So another thing is called LLM Arena, where you give a prompt and it gives you both AI's responses and you select which one you prefer. And based on that, it makes a leaderboard. That's one of the best leaderboards out there because it's actually based on usage. Because the one on math, maybe you're really good at solving that math problem, but then you can't even talk with a human. So it's really limited. But even for LLM Arena, what Meta did, which is a bit of a under jab here, they created two specific versions of their AI. One that is fine-tuned, so specifically done for LLM Arena, and one that is generally available to the public. So what it means is that they score really high on the Arena, but it wasn't a real model. It was just a model that was trained specifically for that benchmark. And here there's a lot of things we can talk about with AIs and AI's creators. Kind of ChatGPT, Flow a little bit less, but mainly ChatGPT and Meta, making AIs specifically for a benchmark, which obviously trumps the goal of the benchmark, because then it's not the AI that everyone has access to. But this way, people will say, oh, it's the best AI, so I have to use it. I have to integrate it. Business will say, oh, it's the first one in that benchmark, so I will pay them rather than their competitor. So that's how you can evaluate their output in a more professional way. Quickly, personally, there's the vibe test, which is literally just take a prompt, send it to 4 AIs, and look what you prefer, and adapt it to your personal thing. One of the things I haven't shown is also with Claude, you can create Claude personas, so like type of prompts. So you add something and you see how you want Claude to reply, and also use memory. So over time, you will learn yourself how you prefer your outputs, which is really personal thing. In the future, we may have, and the video I've put at the end of the slide as an optional thing, is about this, is having a web that is generated live based on you. So this way, the output is what you prefer personally. And so it's not a benchmark, it's actually yourself and your preference. I hope I answered the question. Is there anything you'd like to add, Ayush or Jeremy?
No, not really. I'd say, yeah, vibe test is pretty good, but also it's about knowing what specific model that each company provides to go for. I often find myself switching between, for example, for ChatGPT, the O models, O3 for logic and programming, and then 4.0 is much better, for example, for writing and that kind of stuff. So being flexible with what you use, I think is good, but yeah, I'd say diversify, as Lorenzo said.
Yes, definitely. Choosing the right model is definitely important, but one of the things you can check is a system card. So every single time a big AI company releases a model, they release a system card, which is all the testing and everything they've done. I don't recommend reading it because sometimes it's 100, 150 pages, but looking at a small 10 minutes YouTube video, this is what I usually do. And then I look at the system card where I actually want to do proper research to that. But just the video is usually enough to know about what are the main advantages and disadvantages of those models. And also just looking at other examples. Continuing, so from ABSA, can AI override system prompts? Yes. For this session, I've read a lot of books and brought a lot of knowledge, and I will not find it now, but I have papers about that and jailbreaking. Jailbreaking is the idea of breaking the AI to answer, to make him say what he wants. And Jeremy, I don't know if you remember, but the year before Acts of West, we did, the year before we won, we did actually a project still with AI, which was about detecting fraud with AI. And this was in 2023 and 2023, so still worse model than now in terms of also jailbreaking protection. And what we want to do is to get AI to call you on your phone and try to scam you. And if you detect it's a scam, you have to close. If not, if you continue replying, you lose. And use that to train international students. And it was really fun to try and get AI to impersonate a scammer, because AI obviously it's used to do scams, so it was refusing. So we had to do this convoluted prompt where you say, like, you do a lot of small techniques, and then we managed to get it. I don't know if it will be as easier, it is now, but I mean, we're still recording, so I don't know how much I can say, but it's still possible to get AI, and I've done it, to get AI to explain to you how to build a prompt, to get AI to get DeepSeek to talk about China, Cultural Revolution, and other things. To get, I don't know, I got a description from ChatGPT on how to open a car and take it if it's not yours. These are examples, but it's actually research. It's looking at how can you break the AI and make it do bad things, because then it's good, because my goal is not negative. My intent is positive. We talked about that intent last session. So it's quite important to have this kind of constant evaluation. It's similar to a bounty program there is in software engineering. So the idea of giving money, define. So the ways you can jailbreak it usually is by using specific words. I'll send some articles, but if you just search for jailbreak Claude testing, there's extensive writing about the testing they've done. And examples of things they've done on how they override system prompts. An example is saying, oh, it's only for educational purposes, but if you only say that, now they've blocked it, so you have to do another more convoluted way of saying that. I think, did I answer? Do you want to add something, Jeremy, Yush? Okay. So then Anna is asking, can you suggest what agents are best for infographics or visual outputs? I think Yush, maybe you're really good at this. Do you have any suggestion about the agents best for infographics and visual outputs?
I think for text-based generations like ideogram, I'll text. I think I've heard like Gamma is good for infographic generation, and ideogram and all is for textual generation really good.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I mean, now they've updated their new ChatGPT image model. Before it was two separate models, and now they merged it. So the 4.0 is the same as the 4.0 image. So this means that now you can create infographics. And if you look at the presentation, that's what I've done, simply because it was not mission critical. I could have done it manually with Xcode. If you've been there, I've done most of the graphics manually, but it takes me 1/10 of the time, and the output is nearly the same. And maybe not to the detail, but the main concept, which is what I want to share, is there. So for teaching, for rapid prototyping, all of these things, ChatGPT 4.0 is great. I don't know about Midjourney. I haven't used it in 1 year because ChatGPT has become so good. But originally, Midjourney was really good. I can't think of more. I mainly use ChatGPT. I don't generate that many images. I've also used it through the API. So through the API, it was quite good because once you do it through the API, you can generate like 20 images at the same time. You can also have it like in part of a video game. So instead of a video game, I had the profile picture of the player be created live from a base image, but from who the player is in that video game. That's an example of a project I've done. But yeah, so ChatGPT, Midjourney, Gamma, and API access. Then Daniela. Okay, I think we answered already this one. Jackie, would you mind sharing the 2 documents you pulled up earlier related to crafting effective prompts? Definitely. You can just search Google Prompt Engineering PDF. You'll find them. But I still have to do to compile the entire resources list. So probably by tomorrow, maybe the day after, I'll send an email to everyone as a reminder for the Tuesday session, sorry, Tuesday the 10th. And also sharing the resource list for session 2. And also the slides, I'll put them up as well. So now, Banjara, Shredder, Banjara. Similarly, how accurate would you think it will be to integrate AI and machine learning with variable sensory dense post-radio concussions? Do you want to say anything, Jeremy? How accurate do you think AI will be to integrate AI and machine learning? Not my field of expertise.
If I may jump in here, so again, not my field of expertise, but one thing that I'm really excited about AI is, I don't know how I formulated that sentence, is applications to healthcare. And I know that just AI being used in order to improve the speed of our processes is way better. So I don't know about concussions or whatnot, but if it's something that you can visually see with a scan of the brain, and say it takes, and this can also be extrapolated to for example, cancer. If you're looking at a scan and trying to recognize, patterns that signify a concussion or symptoms, it just means the turnover time of those kind of incidents will be much faster, which improves our processes. So I think, yeah, and it's a huge sort of industry at the moment. I would look into it. So sort of people both in the US and in Europe using AI in their processes. I think the NHS is starting to integrate that for cancer patients, for example. Not sports-related concussions, and it's not LLMs always, but I think improvement is going to be exponentially faster now. So that's just something I've heard, but again, not a pro.
It's a project I've heard of that are not this, but we could take from this is maybe Whoop. So kind of from wearables like this, take the outputs about your health and then use machine learning to predict, I don't know, if you should do more exercise, if you're in a risk. Another example is from a startup that actually started just here, where they give you advice on here next to, advice after to rehabilitate and to prepare yourself for an operation. There's definitely uses of AI that could go in there. I think there was one that I've heard where they were doing something similar, predicting concussions, but I have no idea if they were using AI for it. And obviously, AI is really big. So inside, you can have machine learning and LLMs is a small portion of AI. I think less than 10% of the usage. So there's plenty more things that can be used inside of AI to predict this kind of thing. So definitely to look into. I think we're good for questions. So thank you for your time, and we'll see you on Tuesday, where Fatou is going to lead the session. So thank you on behalf of the students as change agents, and also thanks to Amber and Saara and Fatou for helping organize this session. Bye. See you all.